Two mats. Two mats, one vortex, one booth. So we are here. Thanks so much for joining us, everybody. Welcome to lesson number 10 of NGO Radio Terra's free lessons for all ages and all levels. We put as much information as we can in a span of 30 minutes every single week. I'm here at 4 p.m. We're a little late today. Sorry for the tardiness, but yeah, we're here at 4 p.m. every single Wednesday for 12 weeks. And today is the 10th lesson out of this series. And I'm here again with one of my really good friends and favorite bass players to play with, Matt Booth. So yeah, we're here just working on the sounds, and today we wanted to talk a little bit about the connection between drums and bass, the connection between bass player and drummer, the pocket, and the mutually agreed upon but often not talked about space that we share together. And I guess there's different pockets, you could say, for genres. There's a way to hit a swing pocket. There's a way to hit a second line pocket, which sort of lends itself to swing. There's a way to hit a polka pocket, a country pocket, a rock pocket, a metal pocket, a hip hop pocket. But indeed, all these genres share that one word, which is just the togetherness, the mutually agreed upon, but often not talked about, shared place where the music comes together. And that rhythmically is like a pocket. So let's get into it. I like to always play at the beginning of each lesson and just kind of get some sounds. So we're going to do just that, and we're going to take it through a couple different examples. I'm just going to set off a groove, and then what we're going to talk about today is call and answer, the idea of how important it is to listen for a response, to also play in that exact literal way, like you play and they play. You play and they play. You have a musical conversation. And that can also not be very literal, but I want to show you what that's like. I also want to talk about being a sympathetic player and listener while not being too wishy-washy or without being too unstable in your position, time speaking. So we're going to get into that, and I'll clear up the words on that a little bit more. But for now, let's play blues. I am let's see here. I'm interested in electronics. I'm interested in acoustics. And so I've been working a lot with hybrid models. Been working a lot with incorporating these triggered drums as well as the drum pad into acoustic settings, and ultimately just finding some really interesting ways to adapt the new technology. So we're going to start on the acoustic drums, and I'm going to gradually increase my way over here to the pad. Let's see here. It's a little loud. Whoop. Cool. Yes, Matt. Thank you for being here. Let's talk about it. Let's break down a couple things. So in that experiment, I wanted to be aware of the things that I told you I was going to do, which was kind of work my way around from the electronics to the acoustic instruments. And all the while I'm doing that, I'm listening to what Matt is playing. I realized that I kicked off that blues, so Matt had to listen to where my time feel was. And then once we ended up getting into what was revealed was his solo, that's when I started to acknowledge that it would be a good time to demonstrate some call and answer. The entire time, though, what I'm focused on to create this pocket between us is that my ride cymbal is dancing as much as possible. And as a bass player, I want to let Matt talk about that dance, listening for the quarter note, and also like what does he listen for in order to get as deep into the pocket as possible.
Yeah. Um, in terms of what I'm listening for, like I would say that there's a trust that I have with musicians that I play with, or at least like sometimes you only need to hear someone for 1 minute to know, okay, their groove is solid. I know that their time feel is good. I don't need to be worried about the tempo or the
Mm-hmm.
time. So
Correct.
I'm not necessarily like I don't need you to play consistent measures of quarter notes for me to know where your time is, or
Right.
for me to feel comfortable playing with
Correct.
a drummer like Matt. Um, so I like it took me a little bit to feel where the time was when you were setting it up, but as soon as I knew where that was, it was easy to lock in. And then it's like from there on, it's almost like anything goes. Like the once the groove is established and I know that, where we're going to start and end together makes sense. It's all just about like how we're phrasing the time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
I hope
No,
that makes sense.
that makes sense, and I appreciate you saying that. What are you listening for technically to jump into the pocket with somebody?
Uh, that's a good question. Just like where the groove, like, okay, so when you started off, there was more sort of like a syncopated, funky second line kind of groove that was happening. So I adjust, like, I'm not gonna start playing a walking bass line with
Right.
that. So I
Right.
adjusted what I was playing to what you were doing. And then once that sort of settled, I don't even know how we transitioned, but over time we sort of made a transition to straight quarter note time.
Yeah.
Um, but the way that I like to play, I like things to happen in like a smooth, like sort of like amorphous way of transitions,
Uh huh.
rather than just like that stops and all of a sudden we're here.
Me
In
too.
terms of like abrupt changes,
Right.
it's nice for those changes to happen fluidly. So
Agreed.
like let those groove changes happening in a fluid way rather than an abrupt way.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in terms of what I'm listening for to set up a pocket, it's just like hopefully the groove is being established in a clear way. I
Right.
listen for like clarity of ideas,
Right.
you know.
Right.
Um, and I guess in terms of like breaking that down into technically what does that mean? What am I listening for? It's like is it clear where the tempo is?
Right.
And as long as that's yes, it's like what is the kind of groove that's being established,
Right. Right.
and where can I fit in with that,
Right.
I'm not. My goal as a bass player isn't to sort of like mimic exactly what you're doing, but rather complement it.
Exactly.
You know.
Okay, I appreciate you saying that. So let's try this again. This time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Matt to start off playing rhythmically. So, in a way that I know that there's pulse, but also in a way that I'm not sure where the one is quite yet. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you what I do to find my way into somebody's pocket, right? That sounds weird, but yeah, that's what we're gonna do right now. So similar vibe, similar tempo, but you can take it however you want to take it where you want to go.
Okay.
Cool. So what I was doing was making sure that everything that I did play was out of the way enough for it to not to start to clash with his ideas, but in there enough so that he could start to know that he's gonna have to start accommodating another musician. At that point, once he's secure in that I'm listening to him succinctly and intently and sympathetically, he knows that it's like we're good. Like now he doesn't have to worry about even making eye contact. And that's one thing I do want to say is that I do have a lot of things going on over here. When I'm streaming, I'm sort of worried about the streaming and the technology. So my head can be elsewhere, but that's a great example of to not let that get in the way of looking at your musicians. I realized halfway through, or maybe 2/3 of the way through our first jam, that I hadn't looked at you in a while. And that's super important because we want to take in as much information as possible. Our ears should be our biggest information intake, but our eyes are also massive, massive helps. So we want to do that because we also want to see when somebody's striking a chord or hitting the string or hitting the cymbal, right? That helps. We're gonna do another groove, another tempo, another pocket, and we're just gonna like look at how maybe adding a backbeat changes things, right? And that's gonna help us talk about jazz pocket versus groove pocket. All right, cool. So let's do. Do you know Work Song? Let's play that. Do you know the melody?
Well.
Okay. Let's play. What's the song that you know the melody to? Drawing blanks.
Blank right now.
Do you know Beatrice?
Yeah. Yeah. I just never play the melody, so it's hard for me to like think about.
That's okay though.
Yeah.
That's okay. Let's just play that form,
Okay.
and you can tease what parts of melody I know you know, and then it's just I want to show them the backbeat.
Yeah.
How that changes things. Okay, cool.
Okay.
So, 1, 2, 2, 3, 4. Okay, cool. So let's talk about it. What are we doing here? Um, we're inside of a song that we know has a swing groove to it. So I'm playing, and what happens with this groove is that there's a science to it, right? It sounds like we might be playing random ideas without any particular order or any particular rhyme or reason, but it couldn't be farther from the truth. Actually, we're operating from a very specific set of chord changes, a melodic idea that helps tether us to the general vibe and the tones and the spirit, the aesthetic of the song. But also, we have this opportunity to develop the groove in a different way. And when you're playing a swing groove, there's some things that are constant and have to be there. And then there's some things that sort of have to always be changing in order for the music to feel the way it needs to feel. Those things that constantly are changing are usually what I'm playing on my left hand on my snare drum. Oftentimes it can be in any limb, but the left hand takes the role of a comper or an accompanist, a pianist or a guitarist or a vibraphonist. That accompaniment requires a certain level of understanding and sympathy to what the soloist is doing. What I find that's interesting is that as soon as I put a backbeat with a swing groove, all of a sudden it's my kick that becomes the ever changing, ever syncopated thing. And what Matt may not be aware of is that drummers, and I'm sure Matt is aware of this, but maybe he hasn't intellectualized it, is that my right foot becomes the snare drum roll in a groove context. Because now, if my left hand is playing 2 and 4 all the time, now there's a pattern here. And yet, with swing, there's an idea of an ever revolving spiral, a non-repeating pattern that somehow works. Well, as soon as you put a backbeat to it, you're sort of destroying that never-ending non-pattern. But what does keep that idea is the kick. So instead of getting in the way of Matt by playing the normal pocket bass drum routine, which would be some version of 1 and 3 or something that starts on 1, I oftentimes would not play that. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Here's something that revolves around 1 and 3. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So right there, I wasn't repeating myself necessarily, but I was trying to show that it's all kind of based around 1 and 3. As soon as you get into a jazz context where you're keeping 2 and 4 in the left hand, your kick needs to be able to cover the role of listening to what the soloist is doing. Let's demonstrate that. Let's take it from the same place, from the top of the song. You can solo, and just as Matt does get into the pocket with me, sometimes he's going to play some things that are behind the beat, some things that are on the upbeat, some things that are triplets, some things that are slower than what I'm playing, and I'm going to need to find the right things immediately on the right foot. So let's try that. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. So as you can see, you didn't feel like I was getting in your way at all, right?
No, it felt like it felt like a good amount of interaction and conversation that was happening. I like for me as a soloist, sort of I don't need that, but I like to have that
Got it.
because I like to have other ideas that I'm hearing, whether it's from a piano player that's comping or like obviously right now in this duo setting, like you're the only other person I'm playing with. So I sort of like feed off of other rhythmic ideas that are happening,
Mm-hmm.
and I have one has the option to respond to it or just let it be.
Mm-hmm.
Like to me, when I'm soloing, I don't like. I guess as a bass player, it's like I don't want it to just be like the spotlight's on me. It's all about me. I'm the only one that's generating ideas. I want it to be more of a conversation.
Right.
I'm leading the conversation, but I still want there to be some back and forth and call and response. And even if I don't play anything for 2 to 4 measures
Mm-hmm.
and give you time to sort of like respond to something, and then I can continue with my idea. Like
Right.
I really thrive on that. Um,
I can tell.
yeah,
I can tell.
yeah.
I think now's a really good time to talk about sympathetic, being appropriately sympathetic versus entirely too sympathetic. All right. One of the things that Matt said to me when I first met him was one of the things he appreciated about me was that I was a sympathetic player. And it got me thinking about a lot of moments in the past where I got in trouble for being too sympathetic. And this was something that, I guess this is like that, like, that little monkey mind, that little chatter that got to me, that happens, that self-loathing, like you suck voice. And I don't know why I did that to myself in that moment, but we've talked about that before with you guys this trimester, just about positive self-talk, right? And as much as I try and practice what I preach, that was a moment way long ago in the past where Matt complimented me on something that I took sort of, maybe as an idiosyncrasy in my playing. And what it reminded me of was all the moments when I indeed was far too sympathetic, and it affected the time, it affected the role that I was playing as a drummer. Like musically, I could hear that that was happening, but I wasn't being respectful of my role. Like nobody cares that I'm being sympathetic to you. Nobody cares that you can hear that you changed that one little inflection and that how you pulled the quarter note back and that I can go with you and go with, like, no. And in fact, what happens is people don't really even hear that small incremental change. That was really a big, I guess, a turning point in really being self-reflective about my time feel and understanding what my role is, right? So when I was playing, I knew that Matt required a certain amount of here's where it is, right? That way he can build the trust with me that he spoke about. That way he can actually start to like just let go and turn off his thinking mind and turn on his listening mind, turn on his second listening, turn on that higher frequency of listening that we can get to once we stop having to think so much and we can trust. That comes in the form of just insisting that the tempo is at a certain place, right? And as a drummer, it can feel to you like you might be overstepping the line, like you might be like barreling over the idea, when in fact, what we think is groovy and funky are those moments where like the drummer kept the solid time and everybody else kind of meandered around
Cracks.
in the cracks, right? As they say.
When everyone's in the cracks, it's gonna, it's gonna implode.
E-
Someone,
exactly.
it's like for that juxtaposition to be a juxtaposition, someone has to keep the motor running on the tracks, because if everyone's trying to move the time in the same place, then there is no time.
Correct. And that's I think that's what I would say if I'm being really honest. Like that's what I've got in the past. I've gotten in trouble for, which is not so much that I couldn't keep that time, but that I had a habit of allowing myself to go with the soloist. And that contradicted the studies and the learning that my mentors taught me in college, which was listen to Dexter Gordon. Don't go with Dexter Gordon. Like play with Dexter Gordon and watch what happens when you go with Dexter Gordon.
Yeah.
You're gonna drag. The time's gonna drag. Dexter wants to play and phrase all his rhythms mostly behind the beat while everybody's grooving straight ahead, you guys. So just know that what sometimes to you as a drummer, and maybe I'm alone in this, but chances are if I'm feeling something like this, there's a couple other people who are as well. If it feels like you might be pushing the limit, or not pushing the limit, rather being too emphatic about where your time feel is, just know that that's what the rest of the band needs for them to do their thing. It may not sound right to you, but it sounds right to everybody else, and that's important.
Yeah, people, whether it's a bass player or people outside of the rhythm section, singers, horn players, they want the rhythm section, but especially they want the drummer to be a solid foundation where they can, comfortably groove on top of. And if, exactly what Matt's saying, whether it's me as the bass player, him as the drummer, both of us, when people are trying to be too sympathetic or too sort of clever is another way that I would put it, and always be like trying to make these micro adjustments with the soloist or with the singer, you're gonna get in trouble because the foundation of the groove then becomes unsteady. There's a happy medium between letting things go and acknowledging what you're hearing rhythmically, but if you're always trying to sort of go with the soloist or be too clever, showing that you can go with what you heard, then the foundation is no longer there.
Well said. That's why we got to kind of stick to our roles as instrumentalists and as musicians, and then branch out of that role when we have the freedom and the trust to do so. But my job is to keep that time straight up, pure and simple, before anything else. So I'd say that from my drummer perspective, it's also the bass player's responsibility to work with my time feel and me their time feel. But ultimately, I know that the bass player is going to start by listening to what I do. There's very few bass players who are going to be like, screw what you're doing, listen to what I'm doing. Yeah. They're going to be like, all right, cool, let me see where you're putting, every song has its rhythms too, so it's not like we're all making it up and we have to guess. It's like the song has its rhythmic and harmonic and melodic implications, and we play with that. After that, though, it's all about like, well, does he play that figure that's in the song a little bit late each time? And if so, if he's consistent with it, then I'm going to do that. Let's say I'm the bass player thinking this. Oh, okay, well, if the drummer's foot isn't consistent with that idea, like let's say that rhythm is the same every time, he just makes it feel different, then I either have to, as a bass player, maybe simplify the note and stay out of this person's way completely, or if it's just not working, have a conversation about, hey, can we maybe agree on making this more centered, or I'll come to the back of the beat with you. But I think that kind of conversation usually doesn't happen verbally between drummers and bass players, although it can if you guys are good friends or on a gig and working on a project and having to like talk it through. But usually it's like, I knew you were gonna do that. I felt that. I do want to show you guys a couple of like technical things about keeping the tempo up or holding the tempo down. Let's swing again. I'm just gonna play all up beats and you drag a bit. Like okay. Emphatically drag. We're gonna place the time, and then Matt's gonna start to drag the beat, and I'm gonna show you what I would do in that case. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. All right, so you saw what I did there. Matt's quarter notes started to fall behind the agreed upon pocket. And in order to keep Matt along with me, I decided to play all upbeats. Now, sometimes that is the musical thing to do, and within a swing context, the more upbeats, the better. So you can't go wrong with playing all upbeats usually, right? This pattern. You can't go wrong with that. However, at some point, that becomes a pattern, and we're being sort of anti-pattern, non-linear when we're comping for a soloist. The constants are this 2 and 4, right? Think church clap. 1, 2, on, 2, 3, 4, 1. That's always there, right? Another constant that flows in between the ideas that the left hand's doing is the ride cymbal. Right, so the left hand has to know how to keep the music up or keep the music down where it needs to be. Rush a bit now. Rush the tempo. Now I'm going to show you guys what I would do if the bass player is rushing. 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3. Right? So at a certain point, I realized I needed to play as many downbeats as possible and remind him without saying, "Hey, yo, you're rushing." Remind this musician that they need to be mindful. Right? As soon as you start emphasizing the beat that you're not on, or as soon as somebody in the band starts emphasizing demonstratively the beat that you're not on, it usually means you might want to listen up and tune back into like what's not happening. It could be that you're on the back side of the beat and someone's going, "No, it's here, 2 and 4, and," when you thought it was 1 and 3. Or in this particular case, it was I needed to remind him, "Yo, we gotta pull the tempo back a little bit." So, a couple housekeeping things, a couple technical things. And we're doing great here, but we're gonna take this lesson home because Matt's got somewhere to be, and we have busy schedules, but we are so happy to be here with you, and I've been having a blast with you. Thanks for being here, Ro.
Yeah, for sure. It's nice to talk about this stuff.
Me too.
Like you said, oftentimes musicians and rhythm section people aren't discussing these ideas. It's more just sort of like agreed upon, but it's cool. It's cool to talk about this stuff.
Yeah, it is absolutely, and Matt's somebody that is a very perceptive musician, also a sympathetic musician, but somebody who knows where to put it when it needs to be put there, and I appreciate that. There's just a shared appreciation for amorphousness, amorphous transitions in the music and fluidity and a tremendous amount of groove while the listening and the looseness takes place. So more music to come with you, man. I'm excited about the future. I'm gonna jump over to here to some of this Sunhouse sensory percussion stuff, and we're just gonna groove out and sort of discuss, musically speaking, some of these concepts. We talked about call and answer. We talked about sensitivity and listening, and we talked about ultimately what pocket is, which is right that sort of mutually agreed upon but often not discussed shared space of music and rhythm. And we also talked a bit about what to do when we're trying to, as drummers especially, when we're trying to maintain the groove. How to stop someone from rushing, how to stop someone from dragging. And now we're going to get into one of our favorite ones. We're going to do Thelonious Monk's Evidence, and we're going to put some groove on it. And I'm going to use my sensory percussion sounds. All right. Cool. 1, 2, 3, 4. Bridge. Appreciate you, Matt.
Yeah, for sure. Appreciate you.
One thing I do want to say about this before we go is that I thought Matt was going to come in with the head right away, and instead Matt came in with sort of like a vamp slash solo idea, right? Now, one thing that can happen with something like Evidence is if you think that the other musician is in a different place and you're not solid in your time feel, a song like this can get totally messed up because the amount of upbeats can be really confusing to parse through. And if people are not being demonstrative about where one is and they never counted off the song and you're already playing, you got to really open up your ears. And so what I decided to do was I knew where 2 and 4 was, right? I knew where 1 was, or at least I thought I knew where 1 was. And I could feel where Matt's phrasing started to mark 2 and 4 from time to time. Once I did that, I realized that I needed to go back to that concept that we talked about where I got my kick drum out of the way. But because I'm playing 2 and 4, because I'm playing kind of a pocket groove, I'm keeping that consistent, and now my right foot is comping with Matt. Yet what I know is we're still not in the head, right? And the head is that boom, 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 right? I haven't heard Matt play that yet. So I'm really just kind of in a holding pattern of syncopation until I see or realize that Matt and I are about to play this head. At a certain point, we did just kind of link to it. And it may have been because I cued him or it may not have been. But either way, there's never any guarantee that you guys are going to read the same nonverbal cues the same way. So that's why your ears have to be massive. Your ears have to remain open the whole time, because I was actually lost in the whole beginning of that jam. And then eventually Matt and I found each other. But chances are if we had done that live in front of an auditorium full of people or an arena full of people, they probably wouldn't have known the difference. They wouldn't have known that I was lost unless I rhythmically stopped playing or did something that was weird with the groove. So just a little, food for thought. If you get...
There's something to be said about just like faking confidence, or what it really is just like learning to maintain confidence even if you are lost.
Correct.
And being assured, just trusting that you'll find, we found it.
Right, we found it.
You'll find it as long as you don't let being lost rattle your confidence, which is hard and takes a lot of playing and a lot of practice and a lot of playing with other. Actually, it doesn't really have too much to do with solitary practice. It has to do with getting practice playing with other people and getting lost and finding your way back.
Facts. Spoken like a true professional and a truly great bass player. Thanks for being with me today.
For sure.
Thank you so much, NGO Radio Terra, for having us. Like I said, my name is Matt Vorsmer, a.k.a. Ecussionist, here every single Wednesday at 4 p.m. We're doing 3 trimesters a year, and we're rounding it out this year. So this is lesson number 10 of 12. And join me again next week at 4 p.m. I want to give a big shout out to our sponsors, NGO Radio Terra, Sunhouse Sensory Percussion, Roland Corporation, Icon Microphones, and Pro-L, Tamboro Drums, and the NGO Radio family again. Can't thank you enough. Peace and blessings. Happy holidays, y'all. Later.